For 2 millennia, the world's most important port was dismissed as a myth. The cost of this academic skepticism was profound. Historians were searching for a metropolis 3 times the size of Pompeii, but they were searching on dry land. Ancient texts from Herodotus to Strabo described Heracleion as the mandatory gateway to Egypt, a bustling customs hub controlling all maritime trade. Yet, with no physical ruins found on the coast, the city was relegated to the status of legend, a cautionary tale or a simple exaggeration. The conflict between the data in the texts and the lack of ground truth evidence seemed unsolvable. The city was not a fiction. It was simply 10 meters underwater. The scale of the submerged site presents a severe operational challenge. This is not a scatter of ruins but an entire urban zone, with its central temple, residential blocks, and port infrastructure largely intact beneath the silt. Raising 5-meter-tall, multi-ton statues of gods and pharaohs from the seabed tests the limits of modern marine engineering. The sheer mass of the evidence, hidden in plain sight, forces a complete reevaluation of what we consider lost. The question is no longer if Heracleion existed, but how a city of this magnitude could vanish so completely that it was erased from the map, becoming an invisible asset waiting to be found. For 2 millennia, Heracleion existed only as unconfirmed intelligence, a ghost in the archives. The problem was a fundamental conflict in the data. Ancient sources described a city that was a critical economic gateway to Egypt, the mandatory first port of call for all Greek shipping. Yet for centuries, this vital logistics hub remained completely invisible, leading to an operational dead end for historians and archaeologists. The city was a paper entity, existing only in a few scattered texts. The primary source file was opened in the 5th century BCE by the Greek historian Herodotus. His account was specific. He described a magnificent temple built on the exact spot where the hero Heracles first set foot in Egypt. He also reported that Paris and Helen of Troy took refuge there before the Trojan War. Although Herodotus was a respected historian who claimed to have visited Egypt personally, this blend of administrative detail and epic mythology was deeply problematic. For later scholars, it read less like a factual report and more like a legend, a narrative contamination that rendered the entire claim suspect. For centuries later, the geographer Strabo provided what should have been the decisive data point: a precise location. He placed Heracleion at the canopic mouth of the Nile, a specific channel flowing into the Mediterranean. This transformed a mythological story into a testable hypothesis, providing a defined search area on the Egyptian coast. The mission was clear: locate the ruins on land based on Strabo's coordinates. However, every land-based expedition failed. Generations of archaeologists surveyed and excavated the coastline where Heracleion should have been, but they found nothing. There were no foundations, no harbor structures, no shattered pottery. None of the telltale signs of a major ancient settlement. This complete lack of physical evidence led to a firm academic verdict. The consensus was that Heracleion was a myth, a conflation with another city, or a simple exaggeration. The file was closed. The city was officially a phantom, its existence relegated to footnotes because the search was conducted only on the horizontal plane, never considering the vertical one. The breakthrough that located Heracleion was not the result of a targeted search, but a systemic error during an entirely different operation. In the late 1990s, the French underwater archaeologist Franck Goddio and his team were deployed to Abu Qir Bay, off the coast of Egypt. Their mission was precise and historically grounded: to find and document the sunken warships of Napoleon's fleet, famously destroyed by British Admiral Horatio Nelson in 1798. The target was known, the search grid was established, and the operational parameters were clear. Goddio's team employed advanced survey technology, including side-scan sonar and highly sensitive nuclear magnetic resonance magnetometers designed to detect metal signatures on the seabed. As they methodically swept the bay, the instruments began returning anomalous data. The readings were not the scattered signals of cannons and iron fittings expected from 18th century wrecks. Instead, they revealed vast, coherent structures and massive material concentrations that were fundamentally inconsistent with the mission's target profile. The equipment was functioning correctly, but it was detecting a ghost signal, an immense archaeological feature that, according to official history, did not exist. Divers were sent down to investigate these anomalies. At a depth of 10 meters, they were confronted not by the wooden hulls of French ships, but by a sight that defied all expectations. Colossal stone blocks, the foundations of monumental walls, and fragments of giant statues emerged from the thick layers of silt and sand. The initial discovery triggered an immediate operational pivot. The search for Nelson's victory was aborted. The new mission was to identify this impossible, submerged landscape. After several years of painstaking mapping and preliminary excavations, Franck Goddio made the official announcement in 2001. His team had discovered a vast, sunken urban center. The accidental contact had confirmed that the city wasn't a myth. It was simply in the one place no one had systematically looked. Now, the challenge shifted from finding the city to understanding what it was. The discovery initiated one of the largest underwater archaeological inventories ever attempted. The sheer volume of material is a data point in itself. Since 2001, Franck Goddio's team has systematically recovered and cataloged over 14,000 artifacts. This is not a treasure hunt. It is a meticulous data-gathering operation on a submerged grid spanning several square kilometers. The catalog ranges from thousands of gold coins and bronze statuettes to monumental granite sculptures. Among the most significant is a 5-meter-tall statue of Hapi, the god of the Nile's flood, weighing several tons and found in near-perfect condition. The preservation quality of the artifacts is anomalous. The anoxic silt of the seabed, which sealed the city from decay, acted as a near-perfect conservation medium. In one area, a wooden ship from the Ptolemaic era was found crushed beneath the collapsed blocks of a massive temple. The falling debris effectively created a protective capsule, shielding the vessel from water currents and marine organisms for millennia. Even more remarkable was the discovery of organic material. Divers located a wicker basket still containing the carbonized remains of dum palm fruit, a food source perfectly preserved for over 200 years. It is one of the oldest finds of its kind in underwater archaeology. The operation continues to yield high-value data. As recently as 2023, the expedition focused on the city's southern canal, uncovering a trove of artifacts linked to the treasury of the Temple of Ammonius. Divers brought to the surface ritual silver instruments, gold jewelry, and delicate alabaster containers used for perfumes and ointments. These finds confirm the site was a center of immense wealth and religious activity. This vast inventory provides a physical ledger of the city's economic power. Yet, these 14,000 objects represent an estimated 5% of the total site. The primary asset of Heracleion is not just what has been found, but the immense, uncatalogued dataset still sealed beneath the silt, waiting for analysis. The fundamental anomaly of Heracleion is not its discovery, but its location. The city was built on what was once solid ground, yet it now rests up to 10 meters below sea level. This wasn't a slow sinking over millennia. The city was erased by a specific, violent geological failure. The answer to its disappearance is not in the water, but in the very ground upon which it was built. Heracleion was constructed on the Nile Delta, an area composed not of bedrock, but of unconsolidated, water-saturated sediment. This mixture of alluvial silt, sand, and clay, deposited by the river over thousands of years, created a foundation that was inherently unstable. Geologists identified the precise failure mechanism: soil liquefaction. During a significant seismic event, such as an earthquake, the shockwaves passing through this wet, loose soil dramatically increase the water pressure between the sediment grains. For a critical moment, the particles lose contact with each other. The solid ground loses its structural integrity and begins to behave like a dense fluid. Anything built upon it, from houses to multi-ton stone temples, loses its support and begins to sink as if in quicksand. The city was situated on a geological trigger, waiting for an event. The archaeological data converges on a catastrophic event around the 8th century AD. Heracleion, already weakened by gradual land subsidence, was likely struck by one or more severe earthquakes. The liquefaction process was triggered on a massive scale. The evidence for this sudden collapse is unambiguous. Archaeologists found entire sections of the central temple had fallen directly onto ships moored in the adjacent canal. The immense stone blocks crushed the vessels, freezing a moment of disaster in time. This proves the destruction was not a gradual decay but a rapid, violent event. Buildings tilted and sank into the fluid like earth, canals collapsed, and the sea rushed in to claim the subsiding land. This combination of liquefaction, regional subsidence, and a concurrent slow rise in sea levels created a perfect storm for erasure. The city was swallowed by the earth before the sea covered it, so completely that its physical location was lost, leaving a puzzle that could not be solved from the shoreline. Despite the vast inventory of artifacts, the central question remained unanswered. Was this submerged metropolis truly the Heracleion of legend? The definitive verification came not from a temple treasury or a colossal statue, but from a single 2-meter-tall slab of black granodiorite covered in inscriptions. This was the Stele of Nectanebo I, a royal decree commissioned around 380 BC. Its meticulously carved hieroglyphic text laid out a new tax code, ordering a 10% levy on all goods imported from the Sea of the Greeks and on the work of resident foreign artisans. The critical data point was the name used for the port itself. The decree referred to the city of Thonis Heracleion. This single, hyphenated name instantly resolved a century-old academic debate. Egyptologists had long argued whether Thonis, a name found in Egyptian records, and Heracleion, the city described by Herodotus, were two separate locations. The stele proved they were one and the same. Thonis was the city's Egyptian name, while Heracleion was its common name among the Greek merchants who fueled its economy. The proof, however, became irrefutable through a comparison with an artifact found a century earlier. In 1899, an almost identical stele with the same tax decree was unearthed in the inland city of Naucratis. For decades, it was believed to be a one-of-a-kind object. But when Goddio's team compared the text from their underwater find with the Naucratis stele, they discovered one critical difference in the final line of the decree. The stele from Naucratis specified that it was to be erected in Naucratis. The stele recovered from the seabed commanded that its duplicate be erected at the entrance to the Sea of the Greeks, in Heracleion Thonis. The pharaoh had commissioned two identical stone tax declarations and placed them in the two most important customs ports of his kingdom. Finding the second stele was the archaeological equivalent of finding a receipt at the scene of a crime. It was the final, incontrovertible piece of evidence that closed the 2,000-year-old case, confirming the city's identity beyond any doubt. The operation in Abu Qir Bay is far from complete. Current estimates suggest that over 95% of Heracleion's vast urban zone remains unmapped, buried beneath meters of silt and awaiting discovery. The artifacts already recovered have embarked on a global tour, fundamentally reshaping modern Egyptology and offering millions a direct view of this once mythical world. The story of Heracleion provides a stark confirmation. Reality is always more massive than the legends that obscure it. The critical variable was never the myth's accuracy, but the deployment of technology capable of detecting the truth hidden just beneath the surface.